Good afternoon and welcome to this week's BizSmart's Lunch and Learn webinar. Our weekly webinars aim to provide advice and share knowledge on key business topics and specialist areas. Joining me today is BizSmart's Select member Jill Hutchinson from Aardvark Marketing Consultants, and in today's webinar Jill will explain the essential tools needed in digital marketing. Before we start today's webinar, can I ask you to use the question mark function on your screen to post any questions that you may have for Jill, and she will do her best to answer them all at the end of the session. Okay, thank you again, Jill, for joining us. Over to you.
Morning, everybody. Lovely to talk to you again. Thanks for inviting me, Caroline. We're going to have a look today at the wealth of choice that's on offer for business owners. Many of whom we speak to find it really confusing. Like, the more choice there is, there's digital and there's more classic marketing techniques. And as more and more choices become available, people get a bit more confused about what they should actually be doing. So we're going to try and simplify things today. And we're going to try and aim to get your marketing to deliver you better quality leads, which is what it's all about. So first of all, a bit of background. Frost & Sullivan 2015 Global Survey of Marketing Priorities made very interesting reading. The survey included businesses of all sizes, right up to multi-billion turnovers, public sector, private sector, not-for-profit, broad range of industries. And what's really surprising is looking at that survey is that the issues that people struggle with in their businesses here in the West Midlands are exactly the same as business owners all around the world. So if you think marketing's a difficult thing to do and you're a little bit lost, you're not alone. These challenges are facing industries all over the world, and businesses just like yours and many different ones. So the top 5 challenges from that survey, excuse me, I've got a slight cold this morning, so bear with me, are listed here for you. And we had a whole webinar from Kevin on compelling value propositions and thinking about your proposition. A lot of businesses struggle with that, or if they've got it correct, they struggle with communicating that well. So first thing is, do you really understand why people buy from you? What's so important that you understand what your customers really want from you. Second is generating and then qualifying sales-ready leads. It's not much use if you get lots of leads, but they're not really the right ones for you. If these businesses that want to talk to you are not right for you as customers. We had a client fairly recently who built conservatories, top-end conservatories. And the most time-consuming element of his marketing was going to see everybody so that he could prepare a quote, which of course had to be done on a one-to-one basis. So by changing his marketing, so we were very gently getting away from pricing into quality, he actually cut down the number of people he went to see. So he had fewer leads, but the quality of those leads were much better. So actually it took him less time overall, and the conversion rate was higher. So that's a typical challenge. We don't want to generate too many leads if they're not sales-ready ones, if they're not right for you. Third one is content, and this is a huge problem, especially now we've got all these different digital media around us. Having time to produce quality content, having the staff who know what they're doing to produce the quality content is a challenge for many, many businesses that we deal with. Fourth one is quantifying the return on investment. Many business owners struggle with measuring their marketing, and if you don't measure it, you don't know what works. And it can be as simple as measuring your sales, but of course don't forget you've got from lead to sale, you've got conversion, so it's not an exact process. But it is a start. You need to be measuring your sales at least as one of your marketing measurements, so that we can try and work out over time what works well, what's most cost effective, so you can increase that and do more of that, and stop doing the things that really aren't working for you. If you're not measuring, you don't know which they are. And the last one, if you've got a sales team or if you turn into a sales director for your business as well as doing all the other things in your business, is getting them to buy into using the tools and resources that you think they should be using. Sales teams are often sceptical of marketing activity, and certainly in larger companies there's often a big distrust between the sales and the marketing teams, and you've got to try and get the process to be seamless for your customer. So they slip from marketing, which is attraction to your business, and then once you're getting into conversation with them, you're having a sales conversation with them. And that process should be seamless as far as the customer is concerned. And then other findings, I just wanted to point out the low marketing spend for SMEs in particular, and it's because I think people aren't sure what to spend it on, so they get a bit cautious. But have a look at that pie chart, you'll see that the staffing and actually finding the resources internally to produce your marketing materials is just as important to them, just as much a challenge as actually paying for that. And research is a very small quantity there, and research quite often, if you invest in good research, can pay dividends. It should be a bit higher. So there we go, those are the challenges facing most people, and then they named what they're going to invest in, which is mainly more digital things, more videos, more blogs, more testimonials, webinars, interestingly enough, and case studies, which are always valuable marketing tools. And then finally, before I dive into digital, I wanted to talk about this, what we call the feast and famine cycle. And some of you might recognise this. It is typical that in a small business, we can get trapped into a repeating cycle of good times followed by hard times. You probably remember the story of Joseph from the Bible, or from the Lloyd Webber musical Joseph Technicolor Dreamcoat, where he was predicting the 7 good harvests for 7 years followed by 7 years of famine. And I'm not suggesting there's a 7-year cycle here, but it is fairly typical that good times are followed by bad. So why does that happen? It's a typical small business issue that we get into that cycle of good times and not so good times. It might be that your business is genuinely cyclical and that there is seasonality. So that's fine if it is, but typically we find this cycle even in businesses that haven't got seasonality in their sales. And usually it's because you get busy. When we have a good month or a good quarter and our sales increase, we have to deliver more of those products or services. And in a small business, if you're delivering the products and services, sometimes that means you take your eye off the ball and you sacrifice other things. The lower priorities usually include marketing activity, because marketing is never ever urgent. Sales leads are always urgent, we'll always follow up on those, but keeping the sales pipeline filled up by doing our marketing on a regular basis is something that gets left out in many small businesses. So one thing to think about, one thing I want you to try and increase is your thinking about marketing on a regular basis, so that it's feeding that pipeline all the time, and it's not something you do when you get quiet and you need sales suddenly. So here's my suggestion for thinking about your marketing. Typically we want to break that cycle. We want to have an even sales line, preferably going up, but going up in a way that we can cope as a small business with the delivery. So we need a sales and marketing process that's proven. We need a process that's measurable, and it might be possible to automate some of this, because automation will save you time and money overall. It does require some hard work to set it up, but once it's built, it doesn't need high maintenance, and it frees up people to respond to any surges in demand that you might get. So we can think about automation as a short-term problem to be tackled, but long-term benefits are worth it. So let's start. First thing we ask our clients to do when we're working on marketing with them is actually designing the sales and the marketing process. So this is an exercise I highly recommend you do. To fix this cycle of boom and bust, we need this proven, measurable, automated process. So first of all, we need to plan that process. What does it look like? Can you produce a diagram for your business that looks a little bit like that, a flow chart? Where are the leads coming from? What marketing activity is working? What do we do next? What do we send our prospects? Is there a sequence of things we can send prospects? Is there a journey that we want them to go through to educate them about us before they're actually ready for a sale? So good marketing should be following a process, and the first step is to try and define what process that actually looks like. and think about what resources your customers or potential customers will need at each of those stages, so you're moving them from left to right in this case, so they're actually ready for a meeting and actually to talk to that customer if need be. And also the benefit of having a process allows you to delegate some of those tasks. Typically business owners are very busy and they don't necessarily like delegation. But if you can map out a process and some things don't require your high level of input, your costly input can be delegated to somebody more junior or could be outsourced, that's a way to save some money in the long term. So the first step is to look at that process and see what it actually looks like. Plot it out. The next step is to think about your business plan and what growth you want to achieve. What sales do you need? And then translate that into marketing objectives. So once you're starting to measure that process and you're looking at those boxes as people are going from left to right, you can go through this process. Where are the leads and inquiries coming from? What happens when we contact them? How do we qualify them and make sure they're the right customer for us? Do we do a quote or a proposal for them? And then we have a sale, and then is there repeat business? And by mapping that and thinking about how good we are at converting our leads and inquiries to a contact, how good are we at qualifying, how good are we at converting that contact into getting a quote, looking at those conversion rates, we can start to work out how many leads and inquiries we need in our business. And sometimes the issue might not be that we haven't got enough leads and inquiries. We might have lots, we might have more than we need, but the problem is that our conversion rate is very low. So we might find that actually working on conversion rates and thinking about the right materials to increase that is going to be better marketing than just simply generating more leads at the top. So that's why it's really important to map out your process and start measuring it. How many people go from one stage to the next stage down that funnel? Step 3 is actually changing the way you think about your marketing so that we're not doing a scattergun approach and producing a campaign that goes everywhere, but we're actually thinking about what are good potential new customers for us. Where do we find them? How do we know what they look like? Where are they in terms of geography? What business size are they? What problems have they got? Are there sectors that we're really good at working with? And then we can start looking out, hunting for these customers and actually sending out material to customers that we've identified could be good for us, rather than marketing to everybody and hoping some of it works. So we're now going to think about how can we target our marketing to a much smaller group of companies, so you don't have to do such big print runs, you don't have to make so many contacts, it's less time consuming, and it also allows us to really tailor the marketing material we produce to a specific sector or a specific industry, which means it's really going to resonate with the people we send it to. So we can have a known number of companies to target, and we can plan and we can monitor each stage as we contact them, whether it's working or not. So have a real think about who you want to talk to. Who are your good customers? Do you want more of the same, or do you want more of something that's slightly different? So we've now thought about specific people to talk to. The next thing to consider is the frequency that we try to talk to them. And what I've got here is a business-to-business sales graph. But what's really striking is that most of our business sales success in a B2B environment, over 90% of our sales success, comes somewhere between a 4th contact and a 12th contact. The first 3, even if we're persistent with our selling, first 3 are only going to give us 5% success. So at that point, a lot of business owners or salespeople give up because they think after the first 3, oh, I phoned them that many times, I haven't got anywhere, they don't want to speak to me, and they cross them off the list. When in fact you could be leaving a huge number of potential business on the table simply because your plan doesn't last long enough. It doesn't have 4 to 12 contacts. You stick to those first 3 and then you give up. So I don't know many people who would take 11 rejections before they get a yes on the 12th, but it is worth persevering. And these are statistics that are the UK statistics from a chap called Mick Merritt, who's a sales expert, but it holds in just about all the markets that we've looked at too. So we don't want to give up on these leads. We need to persist with them a little bit longer. We're targeting the right people. We need to be a little bit more patient with them. And then we need to add some variety. Can you imagine your horror if some salesperson phoned you on the first day of every month trying to sell to you? Even if they got through to you or they got past your gatekeeper, you'd just think they were a complete nuisance. They wouldn't be thinking, this is somebody who can really help improve my business. So we've got to be careful. Too much of the same and we look like a complete nag, and we will actually have the opposite effect from the one that we want. We want to engage people. Another thing I see very frequently, and it's an easy mistake to make, if you buy a new email system and you can automatically send out emails to lots and lots of people very easily. And what happens is people get overexcited and they tend to bombard their prospects with lots and lots of emails. And actually what happens is they will unsubscribe. You will actually do the opposite from the effect that you're trying to generate. So instead of building trust and instead of building confidence of that person in your company, you put them off. So we need to mix and match. There is a role for a telephone sales call, there is a role for an email, but we need to make sure that we're using a variety of contacts. We're mixing social media with our calls. We can send items through the post. We can send an occasional email. Is there a personal connection? Can we invite our prospects to an event that we're going to or to our networking group? This variety is really important. There are some people that you just can't reach through one medium. So if we think about digital marketing and social media, some people might not be on the social media channels that you use. And there's no way you can connect them even if they're perfect for you. So this idea of mixing these things up, we have so many options, so let's take advantage of that. It really works much better. And if you invest in good materials, so mix up case studies, testimonials, industry information, anything that's relevant and useful to a prospective customer, they will really like that. They don't want to be sold to, they want information that's useful to them. And you can plan that. You can plan use of different media that gets across that story really well. So let's have a look at a few specific examples. Social media. Social media is a very effective tool for building awareness, but actually the people who use social media the most are the least likely to mention you or to recommend you. They're using it because they like being social. They're not using it because they're helping you with your marketing. So research tells us the most heavily promoted businesses actually start invading personal space. So the users, instead of building a strong relationship, are actually put off by that. It's the equivalent of sending them too many emails or phoning them up too frequently. So social media has a place, and Facebook and Google and LinkedIn are constantly trying to persuade us as business owners to invest more marketing money in that medium. But be careful, because too much contact is actually off-putting. It will do the opposite of what you're intending to do. And your prospective customer can come to resent those intrusions in exactly the same way as you will record something on the TV and skip through the adverts, for example. So humans build connections by talking, quite often meeting each other in person. It's a good way to start a conversation, but digital is not always the best way to build a meaningful and engaging relationship, so be careful. Next. Do I use a hare or a tortoise? Do I use my email, which is quick, and my hare, or do I go for slow snail mail or my tortoise and hare? Remember the Aesop's fable? Hare races off, gets tired, has a nap, thinks he's going to win the race anyway, and the tortoise gets there in the end. Well, actually, in terms of marketing, this is a really good analogy, because mail, good old-fashioned mail through the post, is really good if you do it properly at gaining the attention of your prospective customers, gaining their engagement. They're much more likely to open it. Good old-fashioned snail mail can beat the immediate digital glamorous email hands down. So let's just think about why that is, because this is good marketing. Partly it's just common sense. Somebody sends you a personal letter. So it comes to your business or it comes to your home, we tend to give it our full attention. We're curious, we open them slowly, we open letters one at a time, and we read the content. It's especially true if there's a personal message. If you can handwrite an envelope, handwrite a card, or send a message with something personal in it, it's much more likely to be read. So we have a little moment of privacy and we read that message. And we tend to appreciate and love the time, the effort and the cost that went into that gesture of sending us something through the post. So we often then feel compelled to respond positively simply because it's come that way. If you compare that to the poor old email, we have constant access to email. We get it at our desk. We get it during our commute to work. We can pick it up in meetings. We can even find emails intruding on our leisure time when we should be spending time with friends and family. Email has become a nuisance, a distraction, an invasion of our privacy, and many of us secretly would prefer to be without it, but we're just a bit frightened to do that. So we have a role for email, and there is a role for sending information that way. It is quick, but be careful. It can be immediately consigned to the delete mode, and they can subscribe from your list, which means you can't use it again. So response rates to good direct mail are now 30 times better than digital email campaigns. So that difference in engagement and quality of message actually getting through to the reader can outweigh the disadvantage of the high cost of using the direct mail. So we need to mix and match these things. Digital tools are great. We need to mix them with good old-fashioned marketing, face-to-face, building trust. Those of you that looked at my last webinar will remember this graph. Remember, things that we trust are not adverts, and digital advertising is moving in that direction. We build trust by mixing our messages and keeping the focus on what our customers need and what they value from us. So not necessarily adverts, not necessarily your emails. Don't bombard them with stuff from your website just because you think it's pretty. Is it relevant to the person we want to talk to? Is it going to help them trust you and build a relationship with you? And I've just borrowed another slide, which again will be familiar if you're on the last webinar, which is a reminder that messages with emotional connections and that are independent are the most likely to be successful. So these are the ones that resonate. If somebody's got a problem that we can fix and we show them we absolutely understand what they're feeling and how upset they're feeling and how we can improve things for them, they're really going to take some notice of that. So we need always, when we're thinking about our materials that we're going to use for our marketing processes, we need to put the people rather than the technology at the center of those messages. We have to recognize that people have a far greater impact on each other than just collections of individuals. We need to treat them individually if we can. So these are my sort of top tips summarized for you, if you like. First of all, always plan your process. Planning will pay dividends later. It might be a nuisance, it might be boring, but sitting down, designing a process and planning it will always pay dividends. Have a good system and a process for monitoring your sales and your marketing activity. You might want to invest in some project management tools to help you keep on track and to remind you when things need to be done. Because remember, marketing is never urgent. Unless you've got a press deadline for a press release, it's never urgent. A sales inquiry is, but a marketing activity can get lost if we don't plan it. Stick to your plan. Targeting. Communication is much better quality if we can target it. Get the prospects to act on your message rather than reject them. And we can invest in marketing automation if that's going to keep our costs lower in the long term. So once you've got a process, you can start thinking about which things can happen automatically, which things can be delegated. Save yourself some money by following that process. Sticking to the process will save you money in the long term. It's also easier to implement, and it's less likely to be tossed aside when your business gets busy, when you get into feast and the marketing looks less urgent because you've got lots of customers so you don't need any more. That's the time when you should keep going with your marketing. Marketing should be a little bit like doing your monthly business accounts, your management accounts. There should be something happening month in, month out, all year round. Stick to it, stick to the plan, stick to your process. And if you're measuring and monitoring, you'll know which of these materials you're using are good for you, which ones are less good, and you can alter them over time. But following a process is the best way to make sure that your marketing keeps working for you and keeps improving. So, just a quick reminder, planning, measuring, monitoring and review is our basic strategy. And just a reminder, if you don't know, that you can get help with these things. Things like Growth Accelerator, quite a lot, often grant funding can help you improve your marketing strategy, can help with your planning, can help you think about how you implement your plans and how you measure them. So there is some help out there if you think, oh, that's all far too complicated and I don't really know where to start. Get some professional help. Get a coach or a marketing advisor to talk through those plans with you. Make sure they make sense, make sure they're realistic for your business, and you can measure and monitor it. So, over to questions.
Thank you so much, Jill. You've got a number of questions coming through. The first one is from Steve, and he asks, how do I measure the success of my digital marketing campaigns?
Well, measurement of success is quite easy with digital because it leaves traces. You can work out how many emails you send out. You can work out, if you use some software, how many people have opened them or responded to them. And you can use things like Google Analytics to track how many visitors to your website and which pages they've looked at and what a typical journey is through the website. So digital tends to be easier to monitor than non-digital. But don't take your sight off the end result. The end result is good quality leads that we can convert to sales. So don't get all excited about the digital measurement and forget to monitor your sales. Where are those sales coming from? How did those customers find you? Are they the right quality leads for you? In which case, that marketing's working for you. And some of the other things that are generating less good quality leads or the conversion rates are lower, that marketing route wasn't as good. So measuring your sales as well as your digital activity is a good thing to include.
Okay, thank you. Next question from Simon. You spoke about feast and famine. If I were to need business quickly, what marketing activity would you recommend would get me my quick win?
This is difficult. A quick win will be different in every business. And really what you need is to invest in some sales time rather than some marketing. The marketing should be warming up your customers and the selling should be actually what's delivering you the quick wins. But there are things that typically many SMEs can do better that do give quick results. And the first one is to think about your customers and your referrers and have a conversation with them. Have the courage to ask for referrals from your customers and your referrers. And just spending a little bit of time going through your contact list, phoning them up, having a meeting, having a coffee, having a chat will usually get you some results, and those are quick results, referrals, if you have the courage to ask for them. And the second thing that I notice in quite a lot of small businesses if they want quick wins is they're not very good at upselling. So if you have several products or several services and you've got customers that are just buying one of those, make sure, gently, but make sure that they're aware that you have those other services on offer. Because there's nothing worse than somebody turning around to you at a meeting and saying, oh, I went elsewhere to buy such and such because I didn't know you did it. That is the worst conversation you should ever have with a customer. So that idea of informing them, educating them that you do other things and you can help them either with products or services is another thing that tends to be a quick win.
Okay, thank you. Susan asks, I'm a small business just starting out and looking at digital marketing. Can you recommend what packages I can use, free if possible?
Okay, this is always a difficulty for a startup business. There's a lot of competition for where you can spend your budget, and your budget tends to be small. So start with the free tools. Some of them are absolutely fabulous. WordPress websites. There are many, many thousands of free WordPress templates out there that can save you some money. There are even free websites if you look at something like Weebly.com. They're not great and they're not huge websites, but you can set up a website that will cost you absolutely nothing, or for a small monthly fee you can add some more features to them. So there are things like free websites, I always recommend to my clients on low budgets that they start off with emailing software, something like MailChimp, which you can start off again for free, and gives you some idea of measurement, who's on your list has opened your email or read it or clicked through to your website. Really useful information to get you started. And then if you pay a little more to upgrade the account, you can get some more analysis and some more features that will help you with the measurement further along the line. But to start with, that's great. Google Analytics is another thing that small businesses can use. You need to add a little bit of code to your website so each page can be picked up, and then you can log in and you can monitor who's looking at your website and which pages they're looking at and what their journey is through the website, so what they find most interesting, what they find least interesting, and then you can start producing materials that are more like the ones that get the most interest. So Google Analytics is also free. Once it's set up, it's free to monitor. And then as your business grows, you'll probably want to move into pulling all those things together and thinking about a marketing automation system, or perhaps you want to think about investing in SEO if you know that visitors to your website become good customers for you. So you might want to boost the number of people that visit your website. You could consider that later. But start off with the free things. There are really good tools out there that will just get you started, and if you measure and monitor, you will soon work out what's working best for you, and you can increase that, stop the things that don't work.
Okay, thank you. Another question come through. You briefly mentioned there SEO. Can you explain that a little bit more, please, and how it fits into my digital marketing? And that question's from Paul.
Okay, Paul, SEO, sorry, most people use jargon in my industry. I apologise. It just means search engine optimization. So it simply means spending money with somebody who can make your site more attractive when people's doing a search in Google or Bing or Yahoo, so that your website is found hopefully ahead of your competitors, and ideally on the first page of a search term that you want. So it's something to think about perhaps later, not when you first start a business, because you do need to spend money on a consistent basis and over a long term. So don't start SEO if you can't commit to at least a year. And you need to think very carefully about the search terms that work for you. So what do you actually want to be found for? What gives you the most success in terms of converting people who search for that into a website visitor and an inquiry? But there are things you can do basically from scratch. You can think about your content, make sure you label your images, make sure you connect to any social media accounts that you have, so Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. Google and Bing and Yahoo like to see those social media links as well. And producing content on a regular basis. They're looking for new content and relevant content on a regular basis. So again, if you've got a marketing plan that says, let's produce a blog every month or every week or whatever that plan is, stick to that. You will find your SEO will work for you without paying somebody, but obviously if you pay somebody, the effect will be so much better because they'll be using their professional skills to get you found as well. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Jill, for joining me today and hosting today's webinar. I will send out a copy of the presentation and also Jill's contact details out to everybody very shortly. Just like to thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you make our Lunch and Learn webinars a regular slot in your calendar. And Jill and I hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.